we got Abby. You said, I guess my question would be related to the email copy above. What are the subject lines that entice people to click? Okay, so Abby, where are you from?
Hi, Todd. I'm coming from Chelsea, Quebec.
Oh, no kidding.
Mhm.
I
Near
love those.
Wakefield.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Chelsea is one of the most romantic suite, that Main Street. Oh, man.
It's nice.
It is something. Um, Beautiful. So I'll be in Wakefield September 8th and 9th, doing a storytelling thing, and I may do some marketing things. So reach out to me, send me an email, Tad@Marketing for Hippies, and
Okay,
yeah,
great. I will.
you want to host me in Chelsea, I'm in.
Okay.
Okay, so the question to be related to the email copy. So there's the question about subject lines then. Okay.
Really specifically about subject lines, and then, I mean, copy if I have it in that link that I put.
Sure. Okay, so let me just go here, because on my website, under the free stuff, there's so much free stuff on my website, FYI. Best articles, copywriting. What? Do I not have that? Oh. Okay, I know I've got it elsewhere. Email subject. This should totally be on my best articles page. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm just going to make a note to myself that is going to go. Okay, so this is the article to read on email subject lines for everyone, but I'll just give my short rant about it, and then I will look at your copy specifically. Okay, so when we're looking at email subject lines, here's the question for the house for you to think about. Okay, so the first question is this. What's the number one reason somebody opens an email? It's very easy to, in your mind, go to, it's the email subject line. That's not true. The number one reason we open an email is who it's from. So that's important, just to contextualize this a bit. People put all this effort on the email subject line, but it's actually who it's from. And so, especially when you're starting to market to a different group, not your own email list, or who it's from, more important. Okay, but assuming it's from you to your people, then second question is, what's the purpose of an email subject line? And you might think it's to get people to open the email. And I would tweak that. I'd say, no, it's to get the right people to open the email. And to make sure that the people who that email is not a fit for don't open it. It's to filter. That's the primary job of the email subject line. So, for example, if I'm doing a workshop in Wakefield, I'm not going to email my list with a subject line saying exciting news, ... The subject line will say workshop in Wakefield. Why would I do that? Say, but Ted, then a lot of people aren't going to open the email. Exactly. But anyone in Wakefield or that area will. Yeah. So I'm trying to actively filter out when I'm doing an email subject line, because there's so much advice out there, like, well, you've got to write the subject line so it's, it's going to get everyone to open. And it's just, I remember one, I think it's in that article, but somebody said, like, hey, here's my personal number, call me. But it was just a teleconference line for a call that she was doing. And it was just a lie. It wasn't true. Or people say, here's something shocking I've never told anybody, and then you read it and it's like, that is neither shocking, nor do I believe that you never told anyone. And then people stop trusting our emails. So, the email subject line does heavy lifting of just building trust. Okay, but let's look at what you've written. Oh, right, here we go. Okay. I see. Okay, so this is A short email. Great. Okay. So I'm offering a chance to slow down over the 4 Friday lunches from June 9th through 30th over Zoom. During 4 sessions, we will harvest some of the hard-earned gems from the year that was, prepare to nurse the heck out of ourselves, come into deeper relationship with the land and our bodies, seed new ways of being through the containers of restorative justice circles. Beautiful. That's what I'm doing in Wakefield. It's the storytelling evening about restorative justice.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be there.
Awesome. Through containers of restorative justice and our own bodies, we will explore fostering presence, embodied listening, honoring multiple truths, and learning how to operate out of the marrow of what we value. Okay, so this is for changemaker educators. So I feel a little confused about who these people are.
So they're educators, K-12 and or university level, who are poised who want to make change in the system and need more. They need to, first of all, make change in themselves, and then they need a container like restorative justice to hold that, to bring that back to the school community. So what I'm trying to be is a first landing spot, and then I send them to restorative justice guidebooks and researchers. I've already have some of those partnerships in place.
So just see, they're wanting to make change in the system, and your suggestion for that is start restorative justice circles in your school.
So my suggestion is start with yourself.
Right.
Yeah. And then, and then, you know, then I can pass you over all the resources you want to make changes in your school.
Right. And am I right in hearing that one of the main ways is that they would start up restorative justice circles within their educational institution as a way of, okay. Is there anything else besides that, or is that kind of everything falls under the umbrella of start one of those circles?
It's interesting that you asked that. I don't actually talk much about the outcome of what they get after it. So it's making me realize that that's maybe a gap in my marketing, that I emphasize it's the first step to implement restorative justice.
What is the first step? Working on yourself?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Bing, bing, bing. So this is an example of selling the point of view versus island B in a way that doesn't work. Yeah. To me, a better subject line headline would be something like, yeah, attention changemaker educators. And I might say, I don't know, K through 12 plus university, something. It's like, but and I don't know who's getting this email.
Basically my contacts.
And do they already kind of know what you're about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So let me say how I would write this if it was to people who don't know you that well, and then you can adapt to cut out the stuff that you think is probably redundant. But I'd be saying, attention, you know, you want to make change in the educational system. Okay, another question. Are they with you on wanting to create restorative justice circles? Are they like, I want to make change and I don't know what it is, and you're making the case for restorative justice circles? Are they sort of already saying that's what I want to do?
I think it's usually people who have heard of it in a very vague sense and know that it's, you know, it's been around for a couple of decades now in education. And so they may have an inkling and they think, oh, maybe this can improve my teaching practice.
The restorative justice circles could improve their teaching practice? How so?
They can use circles in their classrooms.
Ah, I see. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then they're not, they want to make change, but they're not totally sold on the idea of the restorative justice model or circle. That's an option, possibly. They've heard of it. Okay.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you see how fucked up it is. You see how messed up the school system is, and you want to
Yeah.
do something about it.
That's right.
And here's the thing that I think has the greatest leverage for a teacher in particular, is to create restorative justice circles in your school. That can look a few different ways. Here's a few ways this could look. Here's why I think this. And I'm having a 4-week program, over 4 lunches, to talk about how these things could be implemented. And in this letter, you could say, and my belief is that we have to start with ourselves. I mean, you've read Returning to the Teachings by Rupert Ross.
No.
What? Oh my God, it's your new favorite book. Have you seen the documentary Hollow Water?
No.
Oh, there you go. National Film Board.
Okay.
But it talks about this community, Hollow Water, in Manitoba, indigenous community, 500 people in winters, 1,500 in the summers. And the addictions counselors, social workers who were visiting there, the police, they all started to illegally share their notes with each other out of desperation, because things were very bad there. And then they realized how much worse it was than they even thought, because people were lying and saying different things to different people. Once they shared their files, they had a better picture of what was going on. And they thought, what do we do? Because what we're doing isn't working. And the thought was, let's do some restorative justice circles. Let's do these healing circles that our ancestors did. And before they started, they realized, wait a second, we need to heal ourselves first. We're not ready to hold this for other people yet. And so they did that work for a year. They did these healing circles amongst themselves until they were ready. And so, I could just see there's that case to make of, we have to start with ourselves. And these 4, over these 4 lunches, I'm going to be sharing what this model is, how it could work, but also we're going to be really personalizing it. And by the end of this 4 weeks, you should have a sense of whether this is a fit for you or not. And then I would probably just make sure that you add in one of the bullet points being an overview of what restorative justice is and what a circle could look like in your school.
Okay.
And this also brings up the idea of an intro workshop, which, if you're a service provider, is kind of the thing I would add to your business model if you don't have it. It's a hour-long to 3-hour-long, maybe a day-long workshop, but where it's the 30,000-foot view, high level, where you're making your case for your point of view. So for me, it's like, hey, marketing can feel good. That's the premise. And I spend a whole day sharing, here's my thought on it. On my website, those of you who've downloaded my ethical marketing starter kit, that it's the footage of that workshop. And that's just me in myriad ways trying to give evidence and make the case and the framework for how marketing can feel good. So in this case, it might be, restorative justice circles. This is something that could transform the whole, landscape. And there's stages of it. And the first is, you have to work on yourself. And the second is, you've got to learn this framework. And the third is, you got to implement it in a small way, and then you roll it. I don't know what the different stages are, but that could be laid out in an intro workshop. And then it's just very clean and direct. It's just, if you're wanting to make radical change in your school, come and learn how restorative justice circles can achieve a lot of the aims you're looking at. And then you just make the case for restorative justice circles and your approach to it, with tons of examples and stories and case studies of, here's what's being done in different schools and how it works and the extraordinary results that come. And you could be bringing this to your school, and here's how. And right, my part in this is helping you become ready to be the kind of teacher that can be doing this. Because here's the consequence. If you try to skip this first step, here's what can happen. Here's how it can go wrong. And have you seen my point of view webinars, Abby?
I've seen some of them.
Did you see the one about the 3 cases, the diagnosis, prognosis, prescription?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
Okay.
for those of you who haven't, if you go to YouTube, just search Tad Hargrave point of view webinar number 2, the 3 cases, and you'll find it. But this is functionally what we're doing in an intro workshop is once we have their attention with the relevance, like which is very brief, then it's here's my diagnosis on the situation. Here's why you're so fucked up. Here's why it's not working. Here's why you're struggling. This is what's happening underneath the hood. Second is the prognosis. Prognosis for, I mean, it's both the prognosis for if you keep going the way you go, here's how bad this can get. Here's the worst case. But if you make changes, you know, in the right way, here's the possibility. So it's just kind of trying to give them some real talk. You know, this is how bad it can get. And it's not probably going to get much worse than this. So don't, you know, it's trying to inoculate them against the fear tactics that come out. It's like, it could be bad, but, you know, as bad as this, or if it really is bad, being candid with them about how bad it can get. And then here's what's possible, you know, without going into hyperbole, just being realistic. And then there's the prescription, which is, and here's what I think is needed. You know, and so in your case, there's a need for this doing the work yourself. So I just think this from reading it feels a little indirect, although I don't know you're listing your people what they're already familiar with, but I would probably start with just a little bit more like, right, you want to make change in the institution. Let me introduce this idea again to you. Restorative justice circles, you know, and maybe even here's links to some articles I wrote on this topic just to remind you. Yeah, those are some initial thoughts.
Okay. Super helpful. Thanks, Tad.
Well, bless you. What wonderful work you're doing. So needed in the world. I'm glad you're out there.
See you in September.
Okay, we'll see you there. This is the best. Okay, so let me and the book that I recommended is called Returning to the Teachings by Rupert Ross. He wrote a trilogy. That's one of the books in the trilogy, but it's a book about restorative justice in Indigenous communities and how it works. He's a white fellow, but he wrote it with permission of these folks, and it's incredible. It's one of the most wonderful books I've ever read. Yeah. Okay.